Hello, everyone. I welcome you back to the Blue Void. My name is Trip Starlake, and so in my last, my 2022 year wrap up, I said that I wanted to start talking about the books that I read on a month-to-month basis. That didn't happen, unfortunately. I experienced some familial, unfortunate things happening, and I didn't have the time or the energy or the mood to want to hit record and talk about the books I read, but I still read books. Um, and actually, maybe it's a good thing that I didn't upload January's because I didn't read as many books in February because, I was busy. But still, I have 7 books that I'm going to talk about today that I read within January and February of 2023. And I hope that you'll enjoy my banter about them. Anyway, let's get started. Oh yeah, actually, before we get started, even though I would like to, I want to say, if you are someone that watches the Star Slug Book Club, Star Slug Reading Club, thank you very much for watching. With that, we usually do have 2 10-star reviews on whether we liked it and if we would recommend it to somebody else and what we've read. I'm actually going to do something sort of similar, but it's just going to be a 5-star review of my personal rating, and then I'm going to tell you if I think you should pick it up or not, or who the audience is for, because I think it's a bit more helpful that way from this type of review. All right, let's go. All right, so the first book I read of the year is Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. I picked this up because it won the 2023 Sci-Fi Award for the Goodreads Awards. That's a little convoluted, but whatever. Yeah, so she won, and I know that the Goodreads Awards are just popularity. They're just popularity contests, right? But it doesn't matter. I wanted to see what people were voting for, what is the most popular sci-fi piece of 2023. And I didn't realize this at the time when I read it, but Station 11, a different Emily St. John Mandel novel, had come out as a TV miniseries. And I think that's probably why she won. People were like, oh, I watched Station 11 and now I see Sea of Tranquility, so I'm going to vote for it because it's by the same author. But you know what? I actually think it deserved to win. It's a pretty good book. It's about several different people experiencing this anomaly or knowing something that involves an anomaly. It's like this equiviolin that they hear inside an airport. No matter where they are in the world, they feel like they're in the airport and hearing the violin. The story switches perspectives a bunch of times. There's someone that has just returned from World War I. There's an author who is giving a book tour at the start of a panini. And a man in the far distant future that's trying to investigate the anomaly. And yeah, it's a time travel-y sci-fi book, but it doesn't read like a sci-fi book. It really reads like literary fiction or a very lyrical novel. It's quite nicely written, I would say. It's easy to read because of the lyricality of it. Is that a word? I don't know. It's good. I think I understand why it won. It's quite well written. It tells a really nice story. And it wraps up quite nicely. I actually think my one complaint about the book is that I wish that Mandel had just left us maybe 15 pages before. It's actually quite a short book, but I actually think by the time the end of the book you understand how everything is going to happen for the rest of the book. I think you understand how the anomaly works, and the author wants to make everything go full circle, which I appreciate. I think that's a nice idea, but I don't know, personally I thought that maybe she didn't have to write the exact ending because we knew what was going to happen, but I guess for a lot of people maybe that's satisfying to see it happen at the end. I don't know, but in the end I gave it a 4 stars because I liked it. It wasn't life-changing, but it was really nice to read. It was a little different style of writing that I'm used to reading. But yeah, I did have it's not really the type of book I would generally read. It's not super, I don't know. It was interesting and introspective, but I do like a little bit more action in my books. But still, it's good. It deserves the 4 stars. It probably deserves 5 stars for a lot of readers. There are some content warnings, I will say. Death, grief, and panini flashbacks. Yeah, if the panini has affected you really hard in any ways, you may want to consider not picking up this book. Or if you need something cathartic about it, do pick up this book, because it's pretty positive and like positive about the ways that it goes about talking about paninis. But yeah. And then for minor stuff, there's Guns, War, Colonization. There is a character that was in World War I. And I would say there isn't anything graphic, though. There isn't anything graphic in general in the book, I would say. So yeah, if you are someone who doesn't normally read sci-fi and wants something sci-fi-like, this is probably the book for you, I would say. If you are someone who wants something a bit more harder sci-fi and doesn't involve like just sci-fi like themes in books, this may not be good, but it's written really well, so maybe just pick it up. The audiobook is only like 6 hours long too, so could be a quick listen. Yeah. All right, so next I read Books and Lala, another booktuber. It does a Buzzwordathon. What do you call it? A Buzzwordathon reading challenge? Yeah, every year. And I decided I wanted to really do it this year because it could push me out of my reading boundaries. It could expand my horizons in reading, and it's forcing me to pick books I probably wouldn't have read otherwise, honestly. So January's prompt was Get a Life, or not, it's not Get a Life, it was Life or Death. And I was there are a few books that I was trying to pick between, but in the end I grabbed Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. Now, this book is a contemporary romance novel following Chloe Brown, obviously. She's a coder, like a website designer, I guess, with fibromyalgia. She has a list of things that she wants to do to get a life, hence the title of the book. But she's having trouble moving forward with it because she's a very goals and lists kind of person. It's pretty relatable, rather than just go do it, just go be crazy kind of a person. Q read the love interest in this book and her apartment's handyman. He's also just a really nice guy, and he's like an artist, and he has tattoos, but he's so nice and cool, and he has a motorcycle. But the two, Chloe and Red, don't quite get along with each other at the beginning of the book because they didn't make the best first impression on each other. But well, as you can tell from the cover, maybe that doesn't last very long. This book is very sweet. It's very kind, and I think that it represents disability in a way that I haven't personally read before. It's very realistic and kind to Chloe, and it doesn't feel like she's burdened down by it. It's just something she has, and she has to get through her life with it, and I actually really liked reading that. I think for me, this book taught me that I like romance novels, but I like fade to black type smut scenes. I'm not really a everything on the page type of a person, I think. If you are, you'll probably like this. Some of the things they did were just not for me. I also think, so like in romance novels, there's like a third act conflict, generally speaking, where like the two love interests are separated for some reason, and then in the end they get back together again, because they have to, like, I don't know, distance makes the heart grow fonder. There's a bunch of different reasons why that might happen, but in this book there were kind of two, and I didn't enjoy them because it was like you just had to have a conversation for 5 seconds longer and you wouldn't have left the room and not talk to each other for 3 weeks. So that kind of disappointed me, but otherwise it's really a cute book. Yeah, it is genuinely a cute book. I think for me, I gave this a 3-star rating because it didn't like knock my socks off. Although I guess they got their socks knocked off. Anyway, the characters. I enjoyed the writing. It's very cute banter. And I liked how the story progressed and everything, but in the end, it made me realize that some types of romance novels are not for me, and so I'm glad I read it. It's good. If you like romance novels and you like smut, like, written out on the page, like, every little bit, you probably will like it. The book, it's very cute. It's very sweet. Yeah, so I guess for content warnings, the major ones is sexual content, like I've said, and then chronic illness, of course. But I actually think like it's a very fair portrayal of chronic illness. It doesn't make Chloe out to be a victim at all. In fact, it's just like, I'm a human with a chronic illness. I can still do things. Things just are a little harder. And I think I don't know, that was really nice to read. And for minor content warnings, there is toxic relationship and emotional abuse. It's not anything crazy. It's not over the top. So that's why I put it in the minor section. But yeah, Chloe Brown is Good Alive Chloe Brown is an alright book. Talia Hibbert is a talented author. I just don't think it was for me. So yeah. The next book I read was Aurora Rising by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. Now, I picked this book up because I read the Illuminae trilogy that these two authors wrote, and I loved it. I think it's a wonderful book. If you don't like reading, it's a great book to read because it's written in like this very mixed media method. Like, it's just letters and transmissions and text messages, and it's really fun. There's even more than that. It's like the text like swirls on the page. It's very interesting. And so I was hoping to experience something similar to that with Aurora Rising. Now, I actually listened to the audiobook of it because I realized it was written more like a traditional novel, which there's nothing wrong with that, obviously. But I'm glad I picked up the audiobook. It's super sweeping, like fantastical. It's like a radio show that I was listening to. There's like several different voices voicing all the different characters. Gosh, it was great. I really liked it. This book is about so it's a young adult sci-fi novel about a girl named Aurora. She's on the cover. Who, like Fry from Futurama, she got cryoed for a really, really long time, and this guy that's part of like this world's Starfleet Academy, he finds her and he releases her from cryosleep. And now the government is after Aurora, and she doesn't really understand why or how anything works in this future. Even though she lived in a futuristic world, it's still even more futuristic for her. Meanwhile, the dude that found her and opened her up from cryosleep is graduating the Starfleet Academy and is given a group of misfits to command. He was like expected to be like the star guy that would get like the cream of the crop like associates, but instead he gets like all the misfits instead. Like some are different aliens, I guess. Some are like his sister. They're like his sister's part of it, and he has like a girl that's his childhood BFF, you know, the usual, I guess. So Aurora's running away because the government's after her. She goes and finds the squad, and one way or another they form an alliance, and then the story progresses from there. I think, gosh, so I said all this, and so like I really did enjoy the audiobook, but the plot itself kind of meanders in the middle, I thought. And then it was kind of like nothing happened. I think that I read a review after I read the book that said that this was like sci-fi Riverdale. It's not Riverdale, but it is pointlessly dramatic, like Riverdale can be. Like, it's just teenagers being mad and having too many emotions sometimes, and it's like, like the stormtroopers are after you and they're gonna kill you, right? I don't know. And I do think some of the world building was a little weak to me. There's some of the alien races, one of the alien races I think is just like, it's too much like Star Trek to me. It was like they decided to take Romulans and Klingons and just like mush them together, which I guess is unique, but it just wasn't for me. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily recommend this book entirely. I think it's a good audiobook though, so if you commute a lot to anywhere you're going, this could be a fun read or fun listen, I guess. Yeah, so I gave this 3 stars. Yeah, because it didn't do anything terrible. Maybe it's a 2.5 stars. I don't really think so though. It was entertaining. It just kind of lost its entertainment value about like 60% through the book for me. I don't know if I'll read. There are 2 other books in this series. I don't know if I'm going to read them anytime soon or listen to them. I'll probably listen to them because it's a great radio show experience. But yeah, major content warnings would be body horror, death, and blood. Yeah, definitely that. And then for minor content warnings, we do have guns and violence. Yeah, I will say the way it's written, it's still like very much so intended for a younger adult audience, so nothing is like too graphic, or if it is graphic, it's like there's only a couple scenes of it. So I think that's not really going to be an issue. But yeah, body horror, death, blood, also maybe grief and loss, as a major content warning. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it's hard to conclude this because I kind of had lukewarm feelings about it. Like, there's some aspects I really loved. Like, I think the people narrating the books did a fantastic job, and they deserve the recognition for that. But I think the writing itself wasn't the best. So, an odd review. We'll just move on before I talk about it for too long. Okay. So the next book I read in January was Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. So I have both Ninth House and Hellbent here because it's the sequel to Ninth House. And I don't think I could pitch Hellbent without pitching Ninth House first. So Hellbent. Hellbent follows Galaxy Stern. She goes by Alex. She's a girl from LA that has gotten into some dangerous and shady shit. One day, after a horrific accident, she wakes up in a hospital bed and is offered a full ride to Yale. Why? You ask? Because Alex can see paranormal magic stuff, like ghosts and stuff, much easier than the average person can, and she's asked to monitor Yale's many secret societies that all happen to be practicing magic and other occult stuff. In Ninth House, there's a few mysteries afoot. Like, there's a murder on campus that she's trying to solve. Alex's higher up or guide went missing. And what about Alex's mysterious past? Now, I've heard many people say that Ninth House itself is a confusing book because of how it's written. And I understand why people would say that, but I think it's cool. I think it's written in the coolest way. Because Alex is narrating, her story, but she's a very unreliable narrator. She doesn't want to tell you the bad things that have happened. She doesn't want to recount them because it's traumatic for her. But she knows why, and she'll say things like, oh yeah, and then that goes back to that one time in LA, or that one time with Darlington, her guide that went missing. And she'll recount different memories, but she won't talk about the bad thing that happened until she's ready to tell you as a reader. And I actually thought that was pretty cool. I think it's a neat way to tell a story. And honestly, the story itself is just really good. It's some parts dark academia, some parts buddy cop. I don't know. I really liked it. And the magic is full warning though, the magic is really gross, really dark, really gross. There is one scene in Ninth House that made me almost want to throw up. I didn't throw up. I didn't, but it's really gross. So yeah, but I do think if you like scary stuff, it's a good, I don't know, it's fun, it's magic, it's fun, it's dark, I don't know. So Hellbent is literally just a continuation of the first book. It's gross. It's just as gross, if not grosser, as Ninth House. There are characters that are introduced that are not my favorite type of creature, but it makes sense in the narrative. It really makes sense in the narrative, so I'm fine with it. Overall, I really liked this book. There are a few chapters that I thought were a little unnecessary in the book, where they're focused on Alex and her LA life. Yeah, I thought that the LA chapters sometimes detracted from the progression of the plot, or I guess the momentum of the plot is the better word to say. But in the end, there's a reason for those chapters. They're not there for no reason. The plot all ties together. I just kind of thought it was boring. So, yeah, and oh my god, it's not the end of the series. There's gonna be 3 books, I think, in this series. And I'm gonna have to wait till 2025 to read the next book, and it's gonna drive me crazy. But yeah, so I gave this book 4.5 stars because, yeah, like I said, there were some parts that I thought were quite boring, but for the most part, it's fantastic. It's a fantastic book. It's really well. Leigh Bardugo really knows how to write a compelling prose to make you want to keep reading the book, I think. For major content warnings, death, violence, and blood. There's a lot of blood. For minor content warnings, animal death, drug abuse, water stuff, and unaliving mention. It's nothing too serious. I will say though, if you do have like thalassophobia or something like that, there are certain scenes that you could just skip in the book. Like, you don't have to read them to understand the entire plot of the book. So yeah, 4.5 stars. I think it's pretty good. It was honestly a great read. I wish that it had been 5 stars, but yeah, there were parts that did bother me in the book, enough to knock half a point. I will say, because there's going to be a 3rd book in the series, so we have a snake for 9,000 and there's a rabbit for Hellbent. I'm pretty convinced in my own headcanon, I think a lot of people would agree with me that I've read these books, that the 3rd book is going to have like a goat or a sheep on the cover, and if not a goat or a sheep, maybe an albatross. If it's an albatross though, I'm worried. Anyway, that was Hellbent. And now, those are actually all the books I read in January. And moving on to February, I read slightly less books, but still, nonetheless, I'll talk about them. So first, I read Finlay, Donovan is Killing It. This was also for the Books and Lala Buzzwordathon 2023 like reading prompts. So this February was verbs. And I there's a lot of books that have verbs in it, but for some reason I went with killing as my verb. So, Finlay, Donovan is Killing It is a mystery novel about Finlay Donovan. She is a recently single mom of 2 who is a romance mystery novel writer, and she's never really gotten off the ground in popularity, and she's really struggling. She can't pay her bills, she doesn't have time to write her next book, which is why she's meeting her agent in the morning to discuss her options. She goes to a Panera to meet her agent, and she is watched by this nosy lady while she discusses stuff with her agent. And she's like, yeah, my next job is going to be huge. It needs to pay all my bills. It needs to be clean. I don't have time coming up with all these ways to like dispose bodies without a steady paycheck from my agent. And so they talk about all that. And the agent is like, yeah, well, you need to write the book, girl. Her agent leaves, and Finlay goes to like clean up their Panera stuff, because you like put your stuff away at Panera when you're done. She goes back to her table and sees there's a note in her bag. I don't know why she didn't bring her bag with her, but whatever. There's a note in her bag, and then she goes out to her car, opens the note, and sees that it's actually a hit request for $50,000. So, for a man. So now Finlay is really enticed by $50,000, but does she really want to kill someone? And then, the story progresses. Now, this book was really fun. It's definitely like a comedy mystery type of book. The way Finlay goes about dealing with this hit request that she's received and everything that follows it is really, it's just fun. There are some twists that I wasn't expecting, but for the most part, it's I don't know, it's just fun to read rather than being like super like, oh my god, couldn't see that coming. I don't know. I guess there were some that I couldn't, but in the end it's just fun more than anything. I think just Finlay has like a mind for how murders would go, since she writes murder novels, or mystery novels. So she kind of just has an idea of how things should go, and I don't know, her interaction with people are funny. There are some serious topics that I think are actually covered nicely, not too darkly, but I don't know. I think for me, I gave it a 4.5 stars again, because, okay, while I really liked this book, the first chapter of this book made me want to throw the book across the room. I almost didn't read it because it's like too chaotic for me. It's like, for me, my like the biggest horror movie for me is like what do you call it? Like the National Lampoon, like, Summer Vacation or the Christmas one. Those 2 movies, oh my god, they stress me out so much. I hate them. And like the first chapter feels kind of like that, so it was really stressing me out. I didn't know if I could read it, but after that, things are fine. Things were great. honestly, it was really fun. It's really fast paced. I think if you're looking for, it's like a cozy mystery novel where like there are stakes, but the stakes are not too high, or maybe they're high, but the way she solves it they're in funny and unexpected ways. Yeah, I actually do recommend it if you're just looking for, if you don't read mystery, I think, and you're just trying to get into it. I think this is a good way to do that. I think major content warning, yeah, they're definitely murder, death, and gun violence. For moderate to minor, is essay mention and infidelity, so if that's something that you need to consider, definitely consider it. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to talk about this book because I really liked it, but I can't like talk about it without spoiling anything. So honestly, if the premise I gave you sounds interesting, maybe just read the first 2 chapters. Don't stop at the second chapter, or don't stop at the first chapter. Sorry, because you're gonna be sad. Yeah, if you're anything like me that can't handle such chaos. Anyway, on to the next book, which is a second book in the series. It is The Hawthorne Legacy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is the sequel to the Inheritance games that I had read not that long ago. I loved it, the Inheritance games, and then I thought eventually I'll read the sequel in February is when I read it. The first book stars Avery Grams. She's a teenager whose mother recently died. She isn't really having the best time of it, naturally, and her plan is to just graduate high school with a scholarship and get out of town and basically start a new life. But then she is suddenly called to an inheritance hearing in Texas for the billionaire Tobias Hawthorne, where she finds out that this guy who's recently passed has left her his entire estate, his entire fortune, just to her. And the rest of his family, like he has 2 daughters and 4 grandsons and some other people, they basically didn't get anything in comparison to how big the fortune is. And it's kind of funny because you're like, haha, suck it, rich people. But there's a lot of like drama and regarding that. She's tasked with having to live on the Hawthorne estate for a full year to lock in that she is the full inheritor of the will. And the Hawthorne grandsons, the 4 of them, are then tasked with or at least they think that they're tasked with a mystery to solve by their grandpa. Naturally, Avery gets pulled into that puzzle too. She loves puzzles, and she has to kind of not really compete, but sort of compete with the grandsons to figure out the puzzle. One of them thinks Avery is a con woman, just trying to get all the money. The other thinks Avery is just a big grand puzzle that grandpa left behind. And there's a love triangle, and that's not my favorite part, but the puzzle solving is my favorite part of the book. Basically the second book is literally just a continuation. There's like a truth bomb dropped at the end of book 1 that becomes the main mystery. Book 2, there's a lot more love triangle bull crap. And Avery kind of loses her character, in my opinion, because she's just so overtaken with all of the drama that's happening, and I can't be mad at her because she really is dealing with some tough shit. Like I get it. She needs a better support group that she doesn't have, but she does the best that she can. And I think the end of the book is kind of exciting. A lot of people don't like how it ended. I thought it was fine. I will eventually read the 3rd book. I probably will read it later this year. But I don't know. I think my issue with the Hawthorne Legacy is simply that Avery loses her character. She was a pretty strong character. She just wanted to solve some mysteries. She wanted to get to the bottom of things. And she wanted to understand why she was chosen to inherit the entire will. And she doesn't forget about it, but once her legitimacy goes into question, she kind of is just very like in her thoughts and not, I don't know. She's a bit more annoying, I guess, is to say. But either way, it's a fun mystery novel. It's also just, I think, like inheritance types of mysteries can be really fun because they do generally have to do with puzzles, and I think that the book handles solving puzzles in a really fun way, especially for like this is a young adult series, so for young adult readers, I think it's good for that. But yeah, for me, it's like I put 3 stars. It might be a 2.5 stars. I don't know. It really suffers from like second book in a trilogy syndrome. I wish that I could say it was better, but like I was entertained the whole time reading it, but it just wasn't as compelling as the first book in the series. But yeah, I'll stick with 3. Do I recommend it? If you like mysteries, sure. If you like love triangles, you'll love this book. For major content warnings, there is kidnapping, death, and fire. For moderate to minor content warnings, I would say gun violence and drug abuse. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say about Hawthorne Legacy. And let's go to the last book that I read in February. It is the ever popular, I think, Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I know this book is like blowing up. Everyone is reading it. And I'm really glad that I read this book in February because I wasn't having the best time and I needed something cozy and fun to read. And this is definitely that book. So the premise of the book is, after spending a large portion of her life as an adventurer, Viv, the newly retired orc barbarian, is ready for something new. She has decided to open up a coffee shop of her own in the city of Thune after falling in love with the hot bean juice on her travels. The book covers her foray into starting a business, acquiring coworkers, the price of keeping up a business, and also the costs of leaving her life of adventuring behind. It's really like, this book is called a cozy fantasy, and it is definitely, that is to a T a cozy fantasy. There is, like, stuff happens in the book, like the plot is progressing with every chapter, but the stuff that happens is not, it's not particularly dramatic. It's just like, oh, well, how do we figure out what to put on our menu for a coffee shop? Oh, well, maybe we can entice more customers by having a bakery as well. Oh, maybe we should have live music too. Like, it's not anything like super crazy. All of the characters are so charming. I love Viv. I love Tandri. I love Thimble so much. And I love Cal too. Like, I think those are like the main characters. There's lots of other characters too that are all very charming though. Yeah, this is like, the way that I've been describing it to people right now is it's kind of like Kiki's Delivery Service or like any Studio Ghibli film, where like it's mostly vibes and like 15 to 20% conflict. Like, there is conflict in the book, but it's not anything crazy. And I think the way it's handled is very nice, I think. So, yes, for Legends and Lattes, it was a 5-star read for me. I really just don't have anything bad to say about it. It's really fun. It's not a very long book either, so if you're someone that can't handle super long fantasies, this is a great opportunity to pick it up. Yeah, it was 5 stars. Major content warnings are fire, injury. Moderate content warnings are violence and blood. Yeah, I think that's it. I think, yeah, I don't know. Look at this cover. It's so cute. Viv and Tandri, you're so cute. I don't know. And I know that Bookshops and Bonedust's cover was just released the other day. I'm very excited for that book to be released in November, and I will definitely read it when it comes out. Yeah, I think also now I will say that this is going to be the April Star Slug Book Club pick of the month. Yes, we will be gathering to read this on April 4th. So if you want to talk about Legends and Lattes with me on stream, links are down below. Yeah, so I don't want to say too much more about this book because I will be talking about it extensively, full spoilers and everything on the stream. So that's what I got. Back to the blue void of stars. Hi. Yeah, so I guess going forward, I do plan to have monthly releases of this. I've started 2 books. I actually DNF'd one already this month. We'll talk about it later. On the horizon, my reading plans are, I'm reading an arc right now, so I won't mention it. I'm also probably going to be reading The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. Sorry, I had to go look at it. That's the book that I have on the shelf. Yeah, I think I'll be reading that, and then beyond that, we'll see what I get to this next month. Yeah. Oh, and because I mentioned that Buzzwordathon a couple times, I'll go link the video to Books and Lala's video down below if you happen to want to participate in it as well. Sorry for my kind of chaotic wording. We'll get better as we go on. Uh, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!